Hey everyone, nice to see you again. I know this is my second video today, but I've actually been writing down in my notebook ideas that I want to share with you, or top favorites I want to share with you, that I've wanted to share personally for a while. And this will give me a chance to. So right now, I just finished writing this, but I am going to tell you my top 10 favorite episodes for Expedition Unknown. Now, Expedition Unknown is um, hosted by Josh Gates, who's an explorer, adventurer, and a guy who ends up in some very strange situations. He also did a spin off series that was a 4-part episode series called Expedition Back to the Future, which explores the whole Back to the Future franchise. But I just wanted to do this because I've seen pretty much every single episode of Expedition Unknown except for the brand new one that just came out. So I wanted to give you guys a rundown of the top 10 that I like and I think you guys would like as well. So starting off would be number 10, Raw and Unfiltered. This is season 2, episode 6, and this is just an episode where Josh shares highlights up to that point and also answer your most asked questions. And there are some very interesting clips and questions that are definitely asked, and some unexpected scenarios that not expected. He also explains the necklace that he wears in every single episode. So that's an episode to check out. The ep- Coming in at number 9 would be A Day in the Life, and this would be season 3, episode 5. Now, in this particular episode, I like because it just gives you a general run of the day course as they're going to shooting Expedition Unknown, from when they're waking up to when they're done filming, and finding out that they actually have a schedule, which they tend to stick to, plus all the gear that they pack for the day. And it's very limited stuff that they have to pack. I mean, stuff that they're definitely going to use during the day for hikes and stuff, like snake gear, flashlights. And in this particular episode, they come into a very dangerous situation with a poisonous frog in a cave. And it does freak the crew members out a little bit. They also show them in the middle of the water, tossing between back and forth the boat, snacks, going into underwater caves. Yeah. So coming in at number 8 would be Cracking the Secret. This is season 7, episode 9. Now, this is definitely in a later season, but this is actually a part 2 of an episode they did probably a couple of seasons before, about this man who basically wrote a puzzle books, and it takes place in different cities around the country of the United States, and each page of the puzzle in each chapter of the puzzle book represents a different migrant migrancy or migrant population, like the Black African Americans or Jewish or Italians. They even go to Ellis Island in this 2-part series. And what happens is you follow a set of clues, and when you get to X marks the spot, you find a plexiglass box that contains a plastered box in it, and inside it has a key. And if you send that key to the author, you're able to get a gem back as a prize. Now, unfortunately, the author did pass away, but in this episode, they ended up finding a gem finding one of these plexiglass boxes and finding the key, and ended up sending it back to the family, and then the family were able to present these two people along with Josh Gates with a gem and awards. It was pretty cool, and these puzzles should be simple statistically, but they're not, because they're very hard to read, because there's also in the pictures of each chapter clues too, so that was very exciting in itself. Now going on to number 7, Egypt Live. This is episode 6, season 6, episode 1. Now this was done live years ago, where they were actually broadcasting it in Egypt, where they were uncovering a lost Egyptian king. He was like I can't remember the exact position he had, but it was like under the god of Ra or something, but he was a very important official, and you can actually see them uncovering the sarcophagus and looking into the actual mummy and seeing real gold artifacts in there, which was really, really cool. So that is definitely something to go watch in the series. Now moving on to top number 6, America's Lost Flight. This is season 8, episode 2. And I wanted to add this episode because this episode takes place in the state of Michigan, where I live, and a bunch of where they're shooting this episode is in South Haven, Michigan, which is about a 45-minute drive from where I live. And so for them to be able to like take video footage of downtown South Haven, which is so cool to me because I grew up going there to the beach as a kid, and then to also see them go, they did go to Grand Rapids briefly, but it was just very short, but you can, yeah. But they were actually, so basically this episode revolves around this flight that got turned around or something, but they were supposedly flying over Lake Michigan, but because they were below the altitude that they were supposed to be, the pressure was bad or something, but they ended up crashing in Lake Michigan, and I guess the remains of the passengers aboard were actually drifted ashore to South Haven Beach, which I didn't know about, and the beaches were closed. So the fact that they rescued these artifacts and they showed them to Josh Gates at the marina, it was just almost sobering. And then they actually dove to the bottom of Lake Michigan. I can't remember, like maybe 250 feet below water level or something, but to go that deep into Lake Michigan is so crazy because I've been swimming in Lake Michigan, and many people know who live in the state of Michigan, the waters in Lake Michigan can be very dangerous depending on the season, especially in the wintertime. Depending on the day, the waters can be very calm, but then again, it can be very dangerous. But to see them actually go to the bottom of Lake Michigan was pretty cool. So moving on to number 5. This is the Dead Sea Scroll Mysteries and the Treasure of the Copper Scroll. And this is in season 7, episodes 1 and 2, where they're uncovering the mysteries of the Dead Sea Scrolls in Egypt. And I feel like this is very exciting to me because as a kid, I studied the Dead Sea Scrolls, and to actually see them go to Israel and actually see these ancient tablets, which is the truest historical context, or the most original context of the Bible we have, is pretty significant. Not to only going hunting in these caves where they found the scrolls, not to mention going in through tunnels that the Hebrews and the Israelites hidden when Rome took over. And they actually found biblical oil lamps from these caves and tunnels, which is very exciting to me. Also seeing that too, because of studying this ever since I was a little kid, is pretty cool as well. Moving on to number 4, Amelia Earhart. This is the very first episode of Expedition Unknown, where they're trying to solve the mystery of Amelia Earhart. Now, this can go very deep into detail, but they go to multiple different islands of where where these tribes ended up seeing airplanes crash in the water or on their island, and supposedly being Amelia Earhart. And in the middle of one of the interviews, there's an earthquake in the episode. So that's pretty freaky. They also ended up going underneath a person's former house, his childhood house, and they ended up finding these bones, human bones. So I'm not going to go deep into that, but you get the gist of it. Coming in at number 3, Escaping the Rock. This is season 10, episode 7. Now, this is about the infamous escape of 3 or 4 people who escaped Alcatraz. Now, I say 4 because there was a 4th person, but didn't make it out. And multiple people over the years had suggested that they died escaping Alcatraz as they were crossing the ocean. But as it turned out, there was new evidence to suggest by one of the prisoners that escaped, their nephews, that there was actually a boat that was going from Alcatraz Island to the harbor on the mainland. So they attached a rope to the raft that they were floating in. Now, granted, the waters in that area are very dangerous. They did an experiment to see if they could actually cross. Almost failed, but they made it across, thankfully. Then they discovered photos of the supposed convicts who escaped and this photo happened to be taken in the 1970s, and they took digital imaging to see if they can match up the photos from that photo to the pictures of the convicts on Alcatraz Island, and it was about 99.9% accurate. There's still a tiny bit percent of inaccuracy there, but it was pretty accurate. And evidence suggested that they started a new life in Brazil, and they actually ended up talking to some of the locals who confirmed their story, found the rock shelter that they had given Josh and the crew, and ended up going there and found some significant evidence of machetes and shovels and stuff like that, and coins, American coins of that era, where the convicts would have possibly made their new life there. So that was interesting to me because I'd seen an episode of The Secrets of the Dead on PBS where they'd covered that, but that was like several years ago. So to see an updated news story, especially with Expedition Unknown, to prove new evidence, that was pretty exciting. Number 2, season 10, episodes 8 and 9. This is Egypt's Lost Tomb and the City of the Dead. Now, in this episode, they go to a archaeological dig site to dig up tombs, and they actually found a coffin with a mummified baby, a wooden coffin, and they actually, as in this dig site, they found multiple vessels and they ended up digging up tombs of these elected officials that still had painting on the walls. It was very vibrant, and this was in the era of Egypt's dark period, or I don't have my Egyptian dates correct, but it was really cool otherwise. Now we're coming in at number 1, The Lost Ruby Slippers. This is season 5, episode 15. And this is my absolute favorite episode of the show because they are investigating a pair of the stolen ruby red slippers from the Wizard of Oz. Now there were 4 pairs of the ruby red slippers, one of which is in the Smithsonian's. I think Leonardo DiCaprio bought a pair, I'm not correct, but one of the curators of one of the 4 pairs ended up putting this pair of slippers on tour, traveling around the country. And it was in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Yes, Grand Rapids, Minnesota, not Grand Rapids, Michigan. Where it's at the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, where it was the pair of ruby red slippers were stolen from the museum, and it was just very odd the way they stole it. And they ended up going into a lake called Buckeye Pit. And they ended up going in the lake in the middle of winter, a Minnesota winter, if you will, and they had to dig through the ice. It was like a heavy layer of ice. And just to prevent hypothermia, Josh ended up actually pouring boiling coffee into his gloves, which he's also covered in multiple layers of wetsuits to prevent hypothermia. And unfortunately, they didn't find the slippers in the lake. But at the end of the episode, the slippers were returned to the rightful owner, and that just in itself was declared a happy ending. So that is it for my top 10 Expedition Unknown episodes. I hope you enjoyed this list. And if you want to see Expedition Unknown episodes for yourself, you can see it on Discovery Plus, which is a really great streaming app for multiple shows and channels such as HGTV, Food Network, Animal Planet, all that, plus the recently added Magnolia Network. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys next time when I post another video, I guess. So talk to you later.